Welcome to Practical Talk Time. I'm Sandy Wrobel, your host for today's show. And we have a brand new person with us. Her name is Mary Larew. She is the new Executive Director of the Danbury Music Center. So let's say hello to Mary Larew.
Hi.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Sandy.
Very nice to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, anytime. We'd like to have you back with some of our not directors.
Conductors?
Conductors.
That would be great.
Okay, I don't know why I couldn't think of their titles, but anyway.
That's fine.
You are now the Executive Director of the Danbury Music Center since just a month ago, or not even a month ago?
It feels like almost no time. My first day was June 9th.
Oh,
so
okay.
the time has flown.
Oh, it has.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess so. So what was it like taking over being the new Executive Director of the Music Center?
Well, I am just so completely thrilled to be the new Executive Director at the Danbury Music Center. I am following a tremendous leader, Nancy Sudik, who is just a wonderful leader. And since the first day, walking in that place, it feels like home, and everyone I meet feels like part of my family, and every day is fun, every day is full of challenges, and I'm just loving it. It's great.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. I know that even the volunteers here, Rosemary Isaacson is part of the concert chorus, and sometimes Cindy Miller helps out. She also joined the concert chorus.
Great.
Last spring she joined.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, so.
I'm so thrilled that we have a connection between public access and the Danbury Music Center. That's
Yes,
a great
it's
thing.
good to get the word out there, and it is a very friendly group.
Yeah.
And I was saying to you that a lot of times I think people who go to the concerts, it looks so formal when we're
Right.
dressed up, to do a performance, but when you go to the rehearsals, it's certainly nothing like that.
Yeah.
Serious but fun.
Yeah, that's a great way of describing it. It's that we're very serious about what we do, and we want to do it really well. But every part of it should be really fun and enjoyable, and make everyone's life fuller for being a part of it.
So when you're the executive director, you have to really kind of oversee everyone, all the different musical groups and conductors.
Yes, and my role really is to support the music making. So I am a musician myself, but we are so lucky to have really tremendous conductors of each of our organizations, or each of our music ensembles. So my role really is to take care of things like marketing, fundraising, renting venues, and building relationships between our organization and other organizations in the community. So that's more my official role within the organization. And personally, I also enjoy getting to know everyone, and that's an important part of the job too.
Yes, I know for our first rehearsal, you actually sang with us with the sopranos.
That was so fun. I love that. Yeah.
Now you have a wide range of professional areas that you're in. You're a vocalist,
Yeah.
a violin player, a composer,
Yes.
and there was one more.
I am a director as well. I actually have a PhD in directing, and my particular area of interest is, historically medieval music dramas, which are kind of opera before there was opera. So it's staged, people are singing. So I'm interested in directing various projects that are musically and theatrically involved.
Now, what would be, or what is the difference between being a director and a conductor?
That's a great question, and I have been asked if I would be interested in being a conductor. I have the greatest admiration for conductors. They require so much coordination with their hands to communicate the beat of the music and to communicate the expression. If they want the ensemble to play louder or quieter, or if they want people to sing with really exaggerated text, they have to demonstrate that with their mouth. So there's a lot going on physically to communicate with the performers in real time. And I found that what I love to do really is to work with people in advance of the performance to really get it into shape, and then during the performance, just let them go, which is really kind of like being an executive director, because it's all the behind the scenes preparing and brainstorming together and working together, and then when it comes to the music making, just letting it happen.
So whatever you would direct, there would be a conductor for the performance.
Yes, I've worked with conductors for that. Yeah.
Right. What happens, I think, people that are really into music and have a background, they really understand the difference.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's one of the things we'd like to even bring out on the TV shows, because I think I'm not the only one wondering sometimes what the difference is.
Sure.
And maybe you'd like to talk a little bit. We'll start out with a group I belong to, the Danbury Concert Choir, because I certainly do not have any formal education in music. So if you want to tell our audience about what it takes to become a member of the concert choir.
Sure. The concert chorus is directed by Christine Howlett, who is just a tremendous singer and conductor, and she's a professor at Vassar, so we are so lucky to have her as our conductor for that ensemble. And one thing I've heard from a lot of our chorus members is that they felt so welcomed by the choir because they didn't have to have an audition. And I understand that. I'm a professional singer and I'm terrified of auditioning. So to be able to just join an ensemble, regardless of whether you're professional level or you're just trying a choir for the first time, or maybe you sang in high school, it's a wonderful group to join, and you just simply get in touch with the office if you have questions about the timing of the rehearsals, and then we'll make sure that you know where to go and what to do from there.
Right, and since I belong to it, I can honestly say what I enjoy.
Yeah.
There's a whole gamut of abilities, and people are very willing to help. If it's something a little bit more difficult or whatever, they'll lend a hand, or you can ask someone that you know is better.
Wonderful.
Yes, it's really a very diverse group, and from what I understand, it would be very rare to find a group like that.
Yes, and from my perspective, there's nothing better than making music as a team, really. So you're in a choir, but it's not just about each individual doing what the conductor's telling you to do. It's about working together to create the sound. That's wonderful to hear that that's how that choir works.
I remember before Christine, we had Richard Price, who will be conducting the Messiah. And I had said, gee, it must be difficult to be conducting us because we're not all professional singers. And he said he enjoyed it, and he said sometimes it's more difficult doing professional singers because sometimes they think they know it all or they want to do it their way.
Right.
So I never thought of it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes ego can get in the way of performance, and from what I've heard and seen of the Danbury Concert Chorus, it's very much about everyone just working together to really get that beautiful sound and put on a wonderful concert.
Yes, and they have a way of getting across what they want the sound to be like.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they think, gee, it sounds pretty good to me. And as time goes on, they become more refined about what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot about just listening to music in a different way by belonging, because when you rehearse like that, you start to see the differences of where you started and where you wind up.
Yes, that's great.
Yes. Now, we also have some other groups that, for obvious reasons, they have to be musicians. So what would you like to start with? I know we have a couple of different orchestral groups.
Yes, we have 3 orchestras. And I'm going to mention first our Danbury Preparatory String Orchestra, because actually that's an orchestra where you have to have a little bit of a background in playing a string instrument, so violin, viola, cello, or bass. And you have to be able to read the music pretty fluently, but you don't have to be an expert. It's a great way, if you're just thinking about, well, maybe I'm ready to join an orchestra. The conductor of that ensemble is Glenn Lebetkin, and he is just wonderful. He taught in Ridgefield for years, and his students just love him. And So they work on repertoire, learning how to be in an orchestra, learning how it works. Just like you were saying, in the choir, people will help each other out.
Yes.
That's very much an orchestra where you're just learning how to be in an orchestra. Then we have the Danbury Community Orchestra, conducted by the wonderful conductor Stephen Michael Smith. And that orchestra is really unique. It's for teens and adults. And there's a very strong emphasis on mentorship in that orchestra. So there's a concert mentor, a professional violinist who plays in the violin section and just gives little bits of advice to the young violinists. And then we have our Danbury Symphony Orchestra, which is an exquisite orchestra conducted by Ariel Rudiakov, and they perform a lot of concerts, basically to a professional standard. And we have a lot of professional musicians who just want to be in the group. They volunteer their time, and they accompany our Nutcracker Ballet and our Messiah. So they're wonderful.
Well, they also do the spring concert where Ariel Rudiakov, it's every other spring, and then the other conductor would be our concert choir
Yes.
conductor. And I think that's amazing because they're conducting not only the orchestra but also
Yes.
the chorus.
Yes, that's a tremendous feat to be conducting that many people all at once.
It looks easy to watch them, but
Yeah.
but you know, I have all I can do to be following the music, singing, and I'm thinking they're looking at the scores for the orchestra
Yeah.
and the concert choir, and in either case, they've rehearsed with one group and only a little bit with the other.
Right. Yes, they're real professionals to be able to do that. And I attended the performance last year before I took the job, the Beethoven Mass you folks performed, and it was just wonderful to see. It must have been 200 people on that stage. I don't even know, almost 200, and it just, everyone was so invested in it, and it just came across wonderfully.
Did that have any bearing on whether you took the job or not?
I had already accepted the job, but when I was sitting there, it just made the hairs on the back of my neck go up, and I thought, this is great. I'm a lucky lady to be coming to this.
What did you do before coming here?
Right before I lived in New Haven. My husband is a PhD student at Yale, and I was working as a freelance musician and a violin teacher at the neighborhood music school, and a professional singer in different professional church choirs, like the Christ Church Choir in New Haven. And then I also got into more administrative jobs at the neighborhood music school, at the New Haven Symphony Orchestra. And then I wanted to formalize my training, and I did that at Columbia University Teachers College in Arts Administration.
I'm just amazed at your background, with all your education, and you're married, and
Oh, thank you.
it's has to be a labor of love.
Absolutely, yes. I feel so fortunate to do all these wonderful things, and I'm never bored, that's for sure.
Now, do you also play with a group with your violin outside of the music center?
The violin, I play from time to time. I love playing for events like weddings and things like that, or reading with friends. I've played with the, some symphonies in Connecticut as a substitute. And I really love singing, singing particularly Renaissance or medieval music. I have a group I'm really excited about called Fathom, and that's a 6 to 8 voice and viola da gamba ensemble, and we just had a reunion in Delaware recently to work up some new programs. So that's kind of my performance outlet right now.
I was really surprised. I thought Nancy Sudik only played with the symphony orchestra when she was the director and did that.
Oh, right.
And I found out, no.
Yeah, she's a professional too, playing in Ridgefield and the brass band, and yeah.
Right, and then I've gone to several of the preparatory string or the community orchestra performances.
Wonderful.
You know, and also, of course, the symphony, and
Yes.
I'm always surprised at how wonderful they all are.
Yes, I'm so glad to hear that. That's my experience too.
And I wish more people would go,
Yes.
especially the ones that are not well, especially in a way because I think sometimes people might think, well, the others might not be worth listening to. And because I'm not really trained in music, a lot of times I can't tell the difference.
Yeah, well, I'm
sure
they're really
musician
good
because of the type of music.
But they're all really excellent, and the conductors choose music that's perfect for the group, so they sound really good on the repertoire they're playing.
Hmm. And I think it would be important too, if people have young children, to take them to these things, that their ear would become very accustomed.
Yes, yes, and to see people doing things that maybe that child would be interested in doing. You know, it's one thing to hear a radio or a CD recording of a musician, but to actually see someone doing that is very inspiring to kids.
Right, a lot of movement to it. And I know Ariel Rudiakoff very often in the symphonies will have, I don't think he's the only one, they'll have the children become part of it in a way.
Yeah.
They integrate the audience.
Yes, and we have a young people's concert in March, where that, I think, is particularly the focus of the programming, to make it fun for kids and to have the kids become a part of the concert itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I really enjoy going to them, and there's nothing like live music.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A CD just is not the same.
It's not the same. You're absolutely right.
So, do you have any ideas of anything that you'd like to change with the music center, or it's pretty much status quo? Or
well, I love the music center as it is. It's doing wonderful work, and basically, I come to work every day totally energized and thinking, okay, well, what else can we do? Who else can we bring in here? And I love if someone just comes in off the street. That once this happened over the summer, the building says library on it because we're in the old public library.
Right. Yes.
And sometimes it's clear they're in a hurry. They're annoyed that it's not the library they were hoping for. That's another block down. But this time I just said, no, we're the music center. Are you a musician? And it turned out, yes, he was a musician, and he played guitar and did various things. So just those moments. I know Nancy Sudik was really good at engaging with the community. So that's just an ongoing thing we're doing, and we're trying new ways of reaching out to the community, and so it's all good. It's all
and
continuing.
I know the summer program that they have. Do you want to tell our audience about that? And we're out of the season now, but it might be a good time for people to start thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Or even giving you a call for more information if they don't get enough.
Absolutely. Yes, we the summer program has been around, I believe, since the 1950s. And some of our very accomplished musicians in our orchestras and our choirs were a part of that when they were children, and now they're adults. And the precise offerings evolve over time, but we've had a wonderful strings program and a wonderful bands program, including jazz and concert band and African drumming and a cappella. And so absolutely, when you're thinking, what could I do to keep my kid engaged and having fun over the summer, you should absolutely look up the Danbury Music Center and see what we'll have on offer.
I've gone to some of the concerts in the summer.
Yeah.
At the end when
Great.
they perform. And there again, they have some of the older musicians that are just interspersed into the...
Yes, I love this about the Danbury Music Center, where even though it's a summer camp for kids, adults want to get involved, and even music teachers and professionals, they'll just come in for the last few rehearsals. They and then they're real mentors for the kids, and they set an example. The kids see, oh, if I keep practicing, I could be that good. I could teach music. I could help kids out in this ensemble, and to see kids and adults performing side by side, everyone fully energized by it, it's just wonderful.
And I've also noticed in the community orchestra, when they're announced, very often there's a mother and father and children.
Yes.
Playing together.
That's a very powerful thing to see. Yes. And we have one family I met over the summer in our strings program where I think they had 4 kids, mom, dad, and uncle, all of them engaged. That was just so cool.
And the summer concert, there were I think they were two brothers. One played saxophone, and I forget what the other was. It was El Montecalvo's band group.
Right.
And I thought, I can't believe this. I shut my eyes and I thought, if I didn't know they were 13 years, I think he was about 13.
That sounds right, yeah.
I couldn't believe that someone that age could play that extraordinarily well.
Yes, the skill is wonderful. And the training they're getting during the summer really takes it to the next level. It's just great.
What about telling our audience about what might be the benefit if I have a child, let's say, that's taking lessons and they're having a music program in school, maybe they're in band or orchestra, what would be another reason for saying, well, during the summer, I'll have my child enroll in the Danbury Music Center group?
That's a great question. The Danbury Music Center is it's a wonderful organization to connect with. And so trying out the summer program is a great way to become part of the community, to meet some of the other people who are involved. Keeping up the music during the summer helps kids to keep their trajectory going up rather than taking a little dip. It's not just like learning to read where it's important to keep reading, but you can kind of do it on your own at home. It's really something you've got to engage with a whole ensemble, and we have such wonderful teachers at our summer program that the kids will receive really quite extraordinary attention and instruction, and it will really help them to excel.
I also, from my perspective, I think it's also good to work with other teachers or conductors.
Yes.
Even with the concert choir, when someone's leaving and then they have like 3 try out for the job.
Yeah.
It's that you learn something different from each of them.
Yes.
And they each conduct in a little different way.
Yes.
I used to think it would be all set, but it's not. There's a personality.
Yes. Yes. And well, with any kind of learning, every individual has their own style, but especially in something like the arts, like music, it's not just about learning how to do it, it's about learning about yourself and how you interact with what you're doing. So to have different leadership to help suggest ideas really helps you learn about yourself in addition to the music you're singing and performing.
Now, can you relate that to your own life with your violin? Obviously, I would assume you had more than one violin teacher. Or, like when did you start violin? Tell our audience a little bit about that.
Sure. I started taking violin lessons when I was 4 with the Suzuki method. I had a wonderful teacher in Iowa City, where I'm from. And I was fortunate to have that teacher until high school, and then she suggested I work with another teacher named Doris Prusel, who's quite a pioneer in the Suzuki method in the United States. So because these 2 teachers worked together, they had quite a unified sense of how to teach violin, but they did both have different ideas that really helped me develop. And as I continued my training in college and graduate school, everyone teaches you different things and just kind of opens your eyes to new possibilities.
Some people may not know what the Suzuki method is, so
Sure.
maybe you'd like to tell us what is special about it.
Sure. The Suzuki method is a pedagogical philosophy and approach that was developed by Shinichi Suzuki in Japan, and it involves a few unique factors. One, generally children start young. It's not required, but generally they start about the age of 3 or 4. Music reading is not taught until the child has solid technique on the instrument. So they're learning by ear. They're learning the same way we learn to speak, by listening and then starting to respond. That's how they start to learn. There's a set repertoire, most famously Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is the first piece you learn. And then also the kids learn in a group class in addition to their private lessons. So it's a social experience, and it's also another way for kids to imitate each other by playing together.
So you learn to play by ear.
Yeah.
I could never understand that. I know that years ago people had pianos in their houses, and that wasn't true when I was growing up, but my mother and her siblings, they could play the piano. They didn't have lessons, but it was by ear.
Wow.
And I guess maybe it's just by, I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
When they were growing up.
Experimenting, I guess. They must have.
So is that what they did when you went for lessons? They give you a violin and say, here's the bow?
Actually, the Suzuki method is generally very disciplined. So I think when I learned, I maybe only had a shoe box or a little box to hold under my head until I got the positioning just right.
Oh, really?
And a stick to get the bow hold just right. And then I could play one note, and then I could, just really step by step. So excellent technique is another part of that method.
So it wasn't literally a shoebox, just something that looked like a shoebox.
It was probably maybe a checkbook box. Oh, that's what it was. Because I was probably this tall at the time. So.
Oh,
yeah.
We're going to be doing another segment of this. I'd like to hear more in the next segment about the Suzuki method.
Sure.
All I know is that children start young. I thought that they got a violin right from the beginning.
No, usually not. They have to earn it.
Oh, and you don't automatically go on to getting the actual violin by the number of lessons. It's when you've achieved.
That's right. Yeah, you have to demonstrate that you're ready. And for young children, as a teacher, I've worked with children this age, and it's a very hard thing for someone who's 3 or 4 to stand still, to not wiggle, to not drop a violin. That's a real challenge. So.
Okay. Well, this is good. We have something to talk about in our next segment.
Oh, good.
And I'm very happy to have you on the program.
Much,
it's been very informative, and we want to hear more. We're closing this segment out, and thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can call the Danbury Music Center at 203-748-1716. And I'm sure that either Mary or Barbara Yeager would be very happy to give you information or invite you to come in and talk to them about the programs at the Danbury Music Center. Almost all the concerts are free. And in our next segment, we'll even talk about some of the upcoming concerts for this fall and winter. And we hope that you'll keep watching. Thank you. And we're Practical Talk Time at yahoo.com.